All right, so um, when the cool features that they've added to .NET Aspire recently is the ability to have custom buttons to take actions while you're debugging your application. I'll show you more what I mean here in a minute. But say for instance you want to set up certain data sets in your test data. If you want to reset the data, if you want to maybe call a certain endpoint to run something in the background. Maybe you want to run some kind of external setup, to set up some data in a remote API that you're calling or something like that. There's all kinds of things that you need to do to set up and work with your application while you're debugging it and testing things out and getting things to work. Well, with the Aspire dashboard, one of the things that they've added is the ability to uh, add some custom buttons to the dashboard itself so that you can make calls to these endpoints or call functions. Basically anything that you can program a block of C# to do, you can make your Aspire dashboard call that code via a quick button from the dashboard, so that you don't have to put in like a feature flag or something like that into your application for something that you're only going to be using in your debugging environment and your developer environment. Um, so that's one of the really cool things that they've added to .NET Aspire recently. And let's go ahead and jump over to Visual Studio. I'll take a look. Um, let's take a look here at what I'm talking about. So we have here a .NET Aspire application. This is one that I set up for a talk that I did recently at Sensei Deliver. Um, but I've added a few features to it to demonstrate these custom buttons. And we'll go ahead and run the application here. Let me just show you the application itself and the things that it does. So it's spinning up here. Oops, I forgot to run my Docker dashboard. Okay, so we can see the dashboard here. Oh wow, they've updated it again. See, that's one of the things about .NET Aspire is they move really fast, and you're constantly having to update things. All right, so Docker is up and running. My application is spinning up now. So basically, what this application is, it's just the demo, basically the demo app that I've added a few things to. I've added a Postgres SQL server or a Postgres SQL server. I've got actually a couple different versions of that. One of them that's running off of the Docker instance, and one of them that's running off of static instance here. Um, that I've got on my application. I've got an API service. I've got a Blazor web front end here. If we look at the front end here, it's just the standard hello world thing. You've got that weather endpoint there, and I've added a few endpoints here. So I've got user groups here. I've got trains, just a few things here. And this is a Azure Blob storage thing that I demonstrated. We're not going to look at that for this particular application, but or for this demo. But here in the dashboard itself, one of the things that they give you the ability to do, so you've got these actions that you can take for things. So maybe I want to stop my Redis cache or restart it. So I could stop that. And then once that's stopped, I could restart it again. Um, Still stopping. There we go. Now it's stopped and I can start that up again. So you can do various things with some of the built-in functionality here with these buttons that they put in here. And these, the buttons that you see under uh, the context menu here will vary depending on what it is that you are running here. In this particular case, for the Redis cache, running a Docker console, I can stop it, restart it, I can look at the logs, so on and so forth. But what you can do is you can add some custom buttons to this functionality here. And we'll demonstrate that in a minute here, but I want to show you how to do it first. So let's go ahead and stop the application. And it'll show you what you need to do in the application itself. So in the app host, what you're going to want to do is you're going to create some custom commands. And you'll do it here in the app host, or you can do it in like a common library here that the app host references. But I just did it for this particular demonstration. I did it right here in the app host. And you've got your standard app host here. But let's look at this particular class itself here. And it's a static class because you're adding extension methods essentially to the builder. That's part of your app host. So obviously with your app host, you've got your builder, and for these, you're going to you've got an add project for each of the projects that you're adding here. And then we're adding extensions to this builder.add project so you can see things there. So let's look at the class here. And there's a couple of different things that you can do depending on what you're going to do, or depending on what kind of button you want to add. Most of them you'll start with this iResource builder here, because you're attaching it to a project resource. Give it a name here, and then obviously you're passing a reference to your builder. And then the next step here, this builder with, and it'll be some command. There's a number of different commands that you can do. In this particular case, we're doing .http. Some of the other ones are, for instance, like builder dot with there's basic command. There's the HTTP command. I have trouble saying that for some reason. And there's like one or two others here that you can do, I think, or maybe not. Okay, yeah, it's command and HTTP command. So if you're calling an HTTP endpoint, then you want to use the HTTP command. Otherwise, you probably want to use the dot or with command. There are several parameters that you'll pass into it depending on what you want to do. In this particular case, I'm going to be passing in the path. And because I'm going to be attaching this to my API project, this is the API endpoint. So really all you need is the endpoint itself. You don't need to you don't need to put in the full thing here in this particular case because I'm going to attach it to my API service. And I'll show you that here when we get over to it. Over here. You're going to have the display name, so that's the name that appears in the menu. And then you're going to pass in several options. And in this particular case, it's an HTTP command options. The method that you're going to do this is just a get endpoint. If you want to do a post or a put or a delete or whatever it is you want to do, you just tell the method here. Description, that's going to be your help text that pops up in the the mouse over, so that you get your help context pop up. And then if you need to do something for this particular case, with the HTTP request, if you need to do something to prepare that, for instance, if you wanted to add headers, add auth, whatever it is you might need to do to put as part of the call that you're going to do, maybe add something into the body or whatever it might be. You would do that within this prepare request. So saying, okay, before you do that, you're going to make these alterations to it. And you would, it's something like context dot HTTP client dot default request headers or whatever it is you want to do. If you want to change something, authorization, you could change the value. If you're like need to pass in a bearer token, whatever it might be, you do all that in here. You can have a custom icon, and there's a library that you can go look at to get all the library names. And there's a couple of different variants. It's basically either filled or outline as the two main things. If you want to have a confirmation pop up, you would add that in here. It's basically a yes/no dialogue, confirmation dialogue. That's all it is to it. If it's highlighted, if you want it to be highlighted in the menu, then it would be false. And then if you want to have some kind of enabled state, so maybe you don't want the button to be active until after the API is up and running and is in a healthy state, then you can add either inline here or you can add functionality. I basically did it as a separate function down here, and that's the function here. So it's basically saying check the resource health status, and if the health status is healthy, meaning it's up and running and ready to receive requests, then we're going to do enabled. Otherwise, it's going to be hidden. It could also, the other one is disabled. So you've got enabled, disabled, or hidden. So if we go ahead and run that again, just to show you, I'll show you what I mean here. We've got this reset my user groups list. And if you go over here and see, you don't see a button here. In this particular case, you see restart is hidden, but the button that I'm adding to it is not anywhere on there. And you can see it's because it's still in a waiting state. So if we give it just a second before it gets up and running, Now it's starting up, running, but it's in an unhealthy state. Now it's running and healthy. So now you can see my reset user groups button is here. So you can see it's hidden. I could have done disabled, but I made it hidden, so I don't want you to be able to see it until the button is actually, or until the API is up and running. We're going to stop that again. So that's what you would do with that functionality. And like I say, you can do it inline here, or you can make it as a separate function if the logic needs to be more complicated for some reason. Maybe it's some external application. You need to go out and check and make sure that application is running before the application or before you enable that button and make it workable. Whatever it might be that you need to do, um, you can do that as a separate function. Just call it there. So that's all you really need to do to set it up. And as far as the icons go, basically it's the Blazor Fluent icon library here. And basically, if you go out here to fluentui-blazor.net/icon, then you can see the list of icons here. You can see there's like 2,600 different icons here. So, maybe for this, I'm doing user groups. Let's search for user. Okay, there's nothing under user, maybe person. Make these a bit bigger here so we can see them. Maybe I want to do, like person home. So let's do like person home. So I'll go in here and I'll do person home and go ahead and run that. And again, you got to wait for it to spin up and get to the point where it's active and healthy. Okay, and now you can see the icon is in there, and it's a used to filled icon. So, as far as the functionality here, if I go over here and look at my API service in my program.cs, so basically what it does is, I've got this thing, the Postgres database that the user groups list is on is running off of Redis, and it creates a new version of it every single time that it spins up. Basically what it's saying, is if I'm in the development environment, I get my context, I find my list of existing user groups. If there aren't any, then I add these two to it. And that's basically, it does that every time that it spins up. But then I've added this endpoint here called reset user groups, which is attached to my app host button. And what I'm doing here is, again, getting my scope, getting the context to my Docker Postgres instance, and I'm saying delete all the existing ones and then add this user group. So there's a single entry here. So if we go back here and look at it and we load it up, we go to user groups, and you can see here's my two user groups that are there as part of the default. And if I go over here and I reset my user groups and get my confirmation dialog that says, hey, are you sure you want to do that? It's just a yes, no dialog. Click yes. It'll tell me it succeeded. I come back over here and I refresh, and boom, those two are gone, and I've got the new ones that I added via this block of code here. So I mean, anything that you want your button to be able to do, like I say, if you can code it, you can make it do it. You can call an external API. You can call a service here on your local machine. You can call an external application. You can load a file. You can reset your database. Whatever it is that you want to write in there to code to make it do, as long as the app host has access to it, and if all you have to do is give it references to the other projects, then it can do that. And the way that you attach that button is, okay, so we called it with API reset user groups. And when you're setting up your service, it's just like anything else that you're adding to it. You just, because it's an extension method, you just do it as part of your Fluent UI or your Fluent syntax. And we're saying dot with API reset user groups, and boom, it's there and it's working. So that's really all there is to it. It's very, very easy, very simple to get up and running, and to set it up and to be able to code it to do whatever it is that you want to do. So hopefully that gets you off to a good start on doing custom buttons uh, in your Aspire hosting applications. Thank you.